Welcome to Twin Spin, the show hosted by us, the Neo Twins. We've shared a birthday, childhood, and now a podcast together. We talk about the stuff that's hard to name but impossible to ignore. Growth, identity, creativity, and change. It's part catch-up, part soul-searching, and all about becoming who we're meant to be, all with a twist of twin.
All right. Adrian, how you doing?
Doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing good for the most part.
It's like, I'm here.
We exist in some interesting times right now,
Yes.
to say the least. And I feel like whenever I'm hanging with a friend of myself, whenever we're hanging with a friend, or you've also told me about the times when you're hanging with friends, and we all ask how they're doing, and it's all varying degrees of meh.
It's like you just hear this like long exhale of just like,
Yeah, it's either meh, it's the exhale, it's the
I'm alive.
I'm alive.
Yeah.
I am present. The asteroid has not come for us yet.
Nope.
Even though some people say they want it to come for us.
Yep.
And so, one thing that I really want us to talk about, and I'm very happy that you threw out this idea to talk about this for this episode, is really just how to get by during these times. I think that it'd be foolish to ignore the fact that we live in these times that are not that ideal for not that many people, or not ideal for many people, rather.
Yeah, many.
Not ideal for many people, and every day
yeah.
it's almost like you wake up and you see some headline or some message or just something that just really sort of gets your day going on the wrong foot. And so I would love to take this time to talk about just some ways that you can hold on to your sanity, hold on to yourself throughout these crazy times that we live in.
Yeah. How you can navigate them.
How you can navigate them, exactly.
I mean, I feel like that's kind of been like the mantra of these past several years, starting with COVID back in 2020, and we had to go through that for 1 to 2 years, and then the aftermath of that.
Yeah.
And now we're in 2025, and we're kind of finding ourselves not in the midst of a deadly pandemic, but still many other things that are going on that have people feeling a lot of different ways. And we can go on listing all the different things.
But let's just get right into it. Way number one, which we've titled "Sitting in the Shittiness." It's okay to acknowledge it.
Yeah. Because first of all, I'm just like, I'm not one for like, toxic positivity, or just the make the best of what you have, which in some ways is true, but saying stuff like, it's going to be okay. It's like, we know that to some degree, yes, but we have to acknowledge that just acknowledging that what's going on right now is not good. First and foremost, I think there is some sense of healthiness, if that's a word, to just acknowledge that, this sucks,
Well, and like the way that I always like to think about it is pretend that it's like you and a friend, and you have something like a bone to pick with this friend, and you need to let it out. And your friend notices that you're acting a little different, and they ask, "Is everything okay?" And you say, "Yeah, everything's fine," even though it's not. And what you've just done is you've increased the pressure in your water bottle.
Yep.
And you keep increasing the pressure every single time you deny that there's something wrong, until before you know it, the cap just pops off and you pop off as well.
And often it happens at a time that is very inconvenient.
Oh, yeah. And it always does, because you reach a point where you just can't be fake anymore.
Yeah.
You can't fake it. You literally can no longer fake it till you make it anymore, because you just know you can't make it. You've just been faking it for so long. And so I think that it's the same thing with our attitudes. If we have a bone to pick with the world, we can't just be like, everything's fine. Everything's great. Like the sun is out, the birds are chirping. It's like, no, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Like this
Yeah.
is awful.
Yeah.
Like this news that I got or this headline that I'm reading, like this is shitty.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. Like existing in the shittiness, acknowledging that it's just awful. That's a healthy thing
Yeah.
because you are acknowledging with yourself that like this is objectively not good.
Yeah.
You know, you don't fall down the stairs, break your legs and be like, well, at least I got downstairs quicker. It's like you broke your legs. It's okay to be upset that like your appendages are broken, you know?
Yeah. I also want to add, like, there's also a very likely possibility that when you say you're okay, even though you are not, chances are more than likely the other person you're talking to will see right through that.
That's a good point, yeah. Especially your best friends,
Uh-huh.
or in this case, your twin brother.
Yep.
They see right through the bullshit.
Where I'm just like,
Yeah.
you are so lying
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, because I know
Yeah.
that if you were to do that, I'd be like, cut the crap.
Yep.
Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Like, you ain't being honest with me, man.
Yeah.
Like, there's something
Like,
going on.
I've seen you fine, and you're not fine right
No,
now.
something
Like,
is definitely definitely awry right now.
yeah.
And so, yeah, sitting with the shittiness, acknowledging that, giving yourself space. Now, to that point, I do want to acknowledge, like, sitting in it is needed. You don't want to stay in it, you know? I think that it's perfectly fine to just sit there, exist in it, acknowledge that life is bad or you're having a bad day or something bad happened, but you don't want to stay in there for too long. You know, you got to pull yourself out of it eventually. And we'll get to that in a later point. But for now, I want to go on to the second point here, which is holding community with one another and the power of organizing.
Yeah, and this is a point that you wanted to bring up, so I'm very curious to hear
Yeah,
why.
well, you know, because, and I'm going to be real honest, I was very much going against this point, especially after the events of the last election, where I felt very defeated. I felt very hopeless. I felt very like, well, you know, the downfall of society begins now, you know, and it's like, what's even the point of doing XYZ thing? Because, you know, we're all gonna die anyways. And I just felt really hopeless. I felt really, really hopeless. It was like that eternal state of shittiness that I just couldn't pull myself out of. And I remember our sibling-in-law, Paige, you know, they really they sat me down and they really said, like, you know, there is still hope. You know, there is still the future generation. There are still the actions that we have now where we can try to turn the tide. And something that I've been reading about in the past few weeks here is, I'm not sure if you've heard of this, but Bernie Sanders,
Oh,
he's
yes.
currently doing an anti-oligarchy tour all over the U.S. And he's going specifically to Republican majority districts. And he's really speaking directly to them about, you know, educating them on policies, educating them on the way that these systems are not working for them now, but could work. And I mean, he's selling out basically every stop of this tour. These people, the message is resonating. And he's setting the groundwork for hopefully, you know, 4 years from now, 3 years from now, we will see a change in the way that the populace thinks and in the way that we interact with our government and the way that we interact with these policies. And reading that was just, oh my God, it's like what Paige was telling me finally clicked, you know, that's like, yeah, you know, there is hope. It's going to be work. It's going to be a lot, but there is power in finding your community, even if you don't, you know, we're not all Bernie Sanders, but like even in Chicago, even in wherever you live, whatever community you exist in, if you can find like-minded folks, find community with those folks, and you think on what are the ways that I can show up in my community, whether it's an event, whether it's a march, whether it's a protest, whatever you are capable of doing, you have the opportunity to turn the tide
Mm.
in not only your state of mind, the state of mind of others, and the way that you can find solace with one another by showing up in your community in that way.
Yeah, yeah. I love how, I mean, kind of going back to Bernie for a moment. I loved a moment I saw online about how he was like, calling on random people to like yell out something that's going on that they didn't like or that they didn't appreciate or that
Mhm.
they were pissed off about, and he kind of just really gave those people a voice and a platform to really let those things out. And I'm just like, I can't think of the last time I ever saw anyone do anything quite like this.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I definitely heard about what he's doing and
Mhm.
the work that you have to share about, the power of community and organizing, especially in these times. That's very important. So I'm really happy you shared that.
Yeah, yeah, and I hope that, you know, whoever's listening to this, that they take away this tidbit the most, that it's like, we have more power than we think, especially in this digital age, to impact others for the positive. I know that there's so many articles about the negativity of social media and how it's negative, but there can be a positive use of it
Yes.
as well.
There definitely
Um,
can be some negativity for sure
yeah,
with social
and
media.
I'm
Downplaying
not
that.
downplaying that.
Yeah.
I think that there is absolutely uh negative to social media, but I think that, especially in this day and age, the very tools that they use to separate us can also be used to unite us
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying that you just flip a switch and, oh, look at that, you change the minds of
Fixed it.
over 300 million people. But
No.
no, nothing that was ever worth doing was easy.
Mm,
You just have to put yourself out there and show up, understand what you're up against, but do it anyways.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, look at Bernie. This man's been going off and doing this for over 40 years. And I'm sure that if he looked at the road ahead of him when he was first starting out, he would have been super intimidated as well. But you
Right.
just kind of have to keep your head down and just go in there and do the
And
work,
do the
and
work.
show up in your communities and the way that you can. And we're gonna include in the notes of this episode just some organizations that folks can get involved with.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, oh well, what's a way that I can get involved? What's a palpable way that I can start doing something? Hopefully the links in the episode notes will offer some possible first steps for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. The last thing I want to add to what you're saying before we move on to the next
yeah.
idea is kind of what you said earlier about how, like, some people might be like, oh, I'm just one person. How could I have an impact on the world? How can just I alone make a difference? And it's like, well, you are a person. You have a voice. You have the ability to make change, however big or small that can be. And that's still something, that's the way you can take action against what's happening right now. And so, I don't want anyone who's watching this to think that just because they're just only one person, they don't have the ability to change the world for the better. You do. You can, And so, I hope that compels someone who's maybe, on the edge of deciding whether or not they can to do so. So,
I heard this saying once. I might be butchering it, but I'm gonna try my best. It went something in the vein of, anyone that has ever doubted if something small can make an impact has never battled a mosquito in the dark. And
wait, what?
yeah, yeah, and I thought, I was like, that's so true. It's like, if you're like, and it's happened to me before, where it's like, I'm in bed just trying to sleep, and I just hear that little mosquito just like flying in my ear, and I swat it and I try to kill it, and you can't find it because it's so damn small, and it's like, honestly, that's like, it was a really random tidbit, but I was like, that is such a good way to put it,
That is kind of valid though. Like, you're at night and you hear the little bastard just like,
oh my god, you hear that little zzz,
yep.
it's and
You
it's so
hear it,
true.
and it's just like, oh my god,
Yeah,
this is gonna be a long night.
exactly, exactly. So
Do you know where you found that quote?
I forget, man. It's been so long, but I remember that, and what you were saying reminded me of that, and I was like, I'm gonna throw that little tidbit of
Yeah.
knowledge out
I like
there.
that. I like
I
that.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, let's
Yeah.
go into our final way here, number 3, and this is what we were alluding to earlier.
Earlier. Yeah.
It's okay to exist in moments of joy and happiness. It will
Yes.
help you stay in the fight. And this was something that you had talked about, so I'm
Yes.
gonna give you the
Yes.
floor here.
Yeah. Yeah. So, especially in the first few months of the year, I had a close friend come to me and they said like, I have a lot of great things going on in my life right now, but I feel like it's not the right place or time to talk about those things. They felt
Mm,
like, oh, like, I had this person coming up to me and talking about how this shitty thing happened to them, or this other person came up to me and told me about this horrible thing that happened to them. And it's like, does it feel appropriate to, I guess, exist in the moments of joy and happiness that I'm getting from these great things happening to me? Like, is it okay? It doesn't feel right. And I said, on the contrary, I feel like now more than ever, I feel like it's important because that very thing was said to me by someone else that I spoke to when I told them the very same thing that this friend said to me.
mm,
Because and hopefully I say this right, but this person said to me a mantra that was commonly said during the AIDS crisis, and it was we would bury our friends in the morning, protest in the afternoon, and then dance all night because allowing yourself to exist in the moments of joy and happiness and community um, are what help you fill your cup and give you the ability to stay energized, stay in the fight, however that fight may look like, help not just yourself but other people who may need someone to stand up for them, to
mhm.
help raise their voice by using your voice to help them out. And so, yeah, like ever since I heard that from this person, and I just tell everybody, please allow yourself to feel joy, to feel happiness, to feel alive and thriving because I totally get how right now it can feel so easy to not want to do that. But please give yourself the permission to do so because right now it's more important than ever.
Yeah, and I love so much of what you just said because we need that, you know? We need the good things in our life to pull ourselves out of the shittiness, to recharge our batteries, to remind ourselves that, there 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 are the good people you're still surrounded by, you
Yeah.
know? And I remember I'm not sure if this was the friend that you were referring to, but I remember like I had a friend that was like, "Is it even appropriate to have a wedding still in this time?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, you can still get married." I was like, "Please still get married." You know, like we need these happy things. Everybody needs these things to remind ourselves like we still have each other, you know? We still have our community and even, I know wedding's a bit of a dramatic example, but even if it's just you go to the lake, you turn on some tunes, and you look at the skyline. Even if it's something like that, if that is what gives you a moment of joy or happiness, go and do it. You know, we have to even if it's not coming externally, from someone else, someone doing something, if we have to create these pockets of joy and happiness for ourselves, then that's what you should do. Because especially with everything going on in this world, you have to. So you have to find these moments for yourself. Otherwise, it can be very easy to get overwhelmed by everything going on.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I also want to add on top of the moments of joy, to exist in your life, I would also add giving yourself more time for you
Mm,
right now, whether it's choosing a day to just call, like, a night for yourself for self-care or a night where I'm just to myself, because I mean, even though I'm someone who I would say is a little bit more extroverted, I'm like an extroverted introvert, I am someone who definitely needs my moments to myself, because that's also how I recharge as well,
mhm.
and I really have tried to I've tried to get better in the last year about protecting those boundaries and being like, if I made this plan, but I'm just like, I'm just not not feeling it today, go and say, I'm sorry, can we reschedule? And I think often I'm scared more so just because of like, what would the other person think if I say, I'm so sorry, but can we not do tonight? But more than anything, I've tried to now shift the focus to like, you know, if they're truly my friend or my family member, like they'll understand. And I feel like by doing that, it's given them permission to also do the same in return.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's really been a really healthy for my relationships with these folks in my life.
Yeah.
So yeah, as much as you should allow joy and positivity to exist, boundaries are also very helpful in this time too.
And actually, I'm really happy that you said that because sometimes you're in a day where you want your joy and happiness to be shared, and sometimes you're not. And that's okay. Joy and happiness doesn't have to always be shared.
No.
Sometimes that solitary joy, that solitary happiness, it's exactly what the doctor ordered,
Yeah.
And so I'm really happy that you made that distinction
Hmm.
because I think that that's a very worthwhile distinction, especially in this day and age. So with that kind of sums up lesson 3. So gonna go back here and just sum up the ways to get by in these trying times. Number 1, sitting in the shittiness, it's okay to acknowledge it. Number 2, holding community with one another and the power of organizing. And way number 3, it's okay to exist in moments of joy and happiness, whether it's shared or whether it's enjoyed in solitude.
Yeah. And I kind of want to end this episode by just talking about an idea that you brought up earlier, with Paige talking about hope.
Mm,
I think that's maybe like the bonus idea to get you through trying times is
mm-hmm,
just the belief that things can get better,
mm-hmm.
things will get better. We may not know when or how exactly, but it will get better. And I feel like, especially in times like that, that's the one thing that you have in your toolbox that can help push you through the days where it can be very hard to believe that it can get better. But I mean, God knows that's what kind of helped me get through COVID, is
Yeah.
knowing this pandemic will calm down. And here we are 5 years later. And so, when you brought that up earlier, that really resonated with me. And I feel like, yeah, that's what you really need to lean on to as well in times like this.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's a bonus way is hope. Find your hope in whatever way that you can find it, whether it's yourself, whether it's your friends, whether it's your family, your community, your pet. Find your reason to hope. And when you find your reason to hope, I mean, there's no stopping you. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, go out, find your hope, find your joy in whatever way, shape, or form that it comes. And, I know that we're in these trying times right now, but like you said, they don't last forever. And so long as we hold tight to these things that we hold dear and we keep up the good fights, we will find ourselves in better times soon.
We appreciate you so much for being here for this episode of Twin Spin. If something resonated with you, pass it along to someone else who might need it too. And if you're navigating something big in life right now, just know you're not alone. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next spin.